talk about your health. Living a primal lifestyle.
You know, we have Tom from Tampa on the phone. Hey, Tom. Good morning. It's bright and early now, huh?
Hey, Paige. Good. How you guys doing, Nico?
Doing great.
Good. Hey, your newsletter's outstanding, man. I'm telling you, man, it is outstanding. And so is the Primal. I love that stuff. I'd never be without it. I mean, I've been on it now 3-4 months, man. I mean, it's just, I can't get over how good I feel.
Primal Edge is, people are raving about it. People who are trying it, they know because you can feel it.
Would not be without it.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now your hosts, Nico DeHaan and Paige Clark.
Good morning. I'm Nico DeHaan, and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced, natural, wild world.
To recover our natural health and regain our rights and our freedoms. And I'm Paige Clark. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day in downtown Clearwater, 77 degrees, going up into the 90s, and we've got our summer pattern going. It's really nice out. It's kind of dry, a little afternoon showers, but it feels drier than normal here. It's a different type of cycle this year, seems like.
Usually it's so hot and humid, although we have plenty of those days. It's a good time to think about going on vacation. I'm sort of brewing one up in my head right now.
Nice.
I'm not sure where it's going to be, but I think it's coming.
We're going down to the Keys in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So if you have any questions, you feel free to contact me at paige@tfnn.com
or Nico@tfnn.com, and we're also taking your phone calls at 877-927-6648.
You know, we talk a lot about getting good stuff in.
Yes.
You know, food, eating healthy food, and making sure we can digest it. But in the world that we're living today, we have to make sure that we can get the bad stuff out.
No doubt about it.
And because even with our best efforts to eat fairly healthy, there are things in our food, pesticides, chemicals, pharmaceutical residues, that we would like to make sure we can help get out of our bodies should it find its way in our body.
And sometimes it's hard to avoid those things at all, no matter how clean you are.
Even with our best intentions, that's right. That's absolutely right, because we do live in a world, and we have to kind of make adjustments. But I thought it would be great for us to talk a little bit about some of the tools that we can use to help us bind some of the things that maybe shouldn't be in our bodies, and so therefore have better health. And I'd like to start with charcoal.
I think charcoal is something that I discovered years ago. My wife and I use it on a regular basis. And if we're out having a couple of drinks, I usually have a little charcoal along. If I'm eating something that may not be quite as good for me, I'm eating out, I don't have as much control over it, I'm going to use charcoal. I think it's a great subject because people need to know about this.
And the other thing about it is it's not anything you should go like, oh, that sounds weird. Actually, it's one of the things used by hospitals to absorb poisons. But let's go back to where it started. In the year was 1831.
Okay.
And Professor Turney stood before an auditorium packed with esteemed colleagues at a French Academy of Medicine, and he held up a glass filled with murky gray liquid, and he announced that this potion contained 15 grams of the deadly poison strychnine, 10 times the lethal dose.
There it is on the telestrator right there.
Yeah. And then Professor Turney did something that stunned and terrified all of his esteemed colleagues. He gulped down every bit of this lethal cocktail. Everyone was gasping. You know, they immediately started calling for hospitals or even calling the morgue, thinking that's what they were going to have to do.
So why wasn't he hurt by this?
Well, so, what happened is, remarkably, he wasn't harmed by this apparent suicidal stunt. Why?
Because he stirred in some of the charcoal.
He sure did. He added activated charcoal. So what is activated charcoal, Nico?
Well, one of the things it's a byproduct of burnt. In most cases, they use coconut shells. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a lot of things you can use. I think even wood, things like that. Just imagine our ancient ancestors, the first time they put meat into the fire, and now it's all char-broiled. Mm-hmm. It's got that skin on it that's really burnt. Mm-hmm. And, of course, these days we're telling people don't eat that because not only the meat might be bad with all this stuff in it from the factory farms, but also you're using maybe briquettes that has an accelerant in it.
Right.
Those things.
And you get those acrylamides forming. But activated charcoal really is the world's oldest and trusted detoxification method, and it's been used since ancient times in China in Ayurvedic medicine, and it's a potent antidote for poisons. So, what is the strength of the poison? It's the dose, and we have little bits of poison toxins, in our food, in our environment today with pesticides. And you'll actually find activated charcoal in every single ER room around the world.
Yeah, and if I have a little distress in my stomach, that's probably the first thing I reach for. I reach for some HCl a lot of times because I know things might not be digesting as well as they should. So those in combination really work well for us. And I think we need to understand how the charcoal works.
Yeah, because there's benefits that go beyond the ER or emergency use for charcoal. So let's talk about what some of these benefits are and how does it actually work.
Yeah, you can make activated charcoal by burning a carbon source such as wood, peat, or coconut shells at extremely high temperatures, 1700 to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. This creates the char. The char is then heated in a furnace at an even higher temperature in the presence of steam.
And then it's activated because the process causes it to have very fine particle size. So think of a honeycomb. These activated fine particles are peppered with millions of tiny pores, and these pores are able to trap and bind toxins and contaminants that we want to remove. And these pores are actually the secret to activating charcoal's amazing detoxification. I mean, it has the surface area of football fields.
Yeah, and the tiny little things that are there can get in anywhere. That's the beautiful thing. It gets anywhere, it goes where the toxins is, then it encloses around the toxin and carries it out of your system. Pretty cool.
So the absorption is when the fluid permeates a solid or a dissolved liquid, but absorption in a chemical reaction is where the elements bind, and this binding power is what is so powerful.
And what makes it bind? It's the negative charge.
The negative charge, correct, yeah. And that's one of the things that we see in the primal edge is the negative charge, the negative ions, and negatively charged elements seek out positively charged elements, and they bind them up and get rid of them, the positive ones being the troublemakers.
Right. The important part is the human body cannot metabolize activated charcoal, so it passes through the digestive system like a million little magnets, you can say, and it goes and grabs the toxins as it goes.
Yes. It's wonderful for getting rid of heavy metals, toxins, poisons. And that's not the only great binder. I also really love Premier Research's Mediclay. You've heard me talk about Mediclay.
Yeah.
One of the things that we like about Mediclay is it has the same type of absorption capability, and but it also donates beneficial calcium, which kind of leaves it behind, which is kind of nice.
Because of the minerals that are in the soil.
And one of the things about clay that you can see is that animals love clay. And you'll see animals seeking out clay or seeking out dirt, and that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wisdom of nature.
Exactly. You see the babies scooping up the dirt sometimes when they're younger, too.
Yeah.
Maybe they know something also, just blindly.
Yeah, maybe we should pay a little more attention to nature and to little children.
I always take this with me wherever I go, so if...
keep them in a packet in your...
Yeah, keep them in a package. If you're out eating at a restaurant, good idea to take those things.
I think so. And I think particularly in this day and age, seafood or buffets... it's just a good idea to have one. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good preventative.
No doubt about it.
Yes, to keep it in your purse.
Another good preventative is taking a look at our Health Savings newsletter. I got a new one coming out today.
Good stuff.
So, there's a lot of material in there. I really put a lot of stuff into there. And I'm also working on the next one. So get that at our TFNN.com website. Pick up some Primal Edge, and you can call us at 877-927-6648. Paige and I will return momentarily. Welcome back to the show, folks. One of the benefits of charcoal is that, of course, it helps with digestions. So if you're eating out once a week, then you should probably carry some of this with you. And it's a good part of a regular health routine, really.
Yeah, so it really helps with gas and bloating. And a lot of people experience this poor digestion, and a lot of it is related to foods that you can't digest, and also additives and so forth that might be irritating you.
Yeah, it also says here that it reduces high cholesterol. In one study, patients with high cholesterol took 8 grams of activated charcoal 3 times a week for a month. At the end of the studies, the total cholesterol decreased by 20%. The bad LDL cholesterol, and really talking about the real small particles in the LDLs.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the concern, the small particles.
Yeah.
I always don't like that they call the LDL bad. It's actually very important. It's the carrier for hormones, but whatever.
Well, it's the good is what the cholesterol going in to the vital organ, and going out of the vital organ is the other one. So they're basically two different ones. It's like they're
both important.
Well, it's kind of like you got water running in, and the rest of it goes down in the sewer, so it's going out. So that you can call that bad water if you want to.
But it's got to go.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's a good point. But getting back to it, preventing aging. This is a very interesting thing about charcoal.
Yeah, we live in a highly toxic environment, so it stands to reason that we need certain foods that will help us get rid of toxicity, and charcoal is one of the other ones. The other thing you mentioned was the type of clay, the Mediclay.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some little background on the Mediclay after we finish these things with the charcoal. But isn't that great that can help prevent aging? Because toxicity is what causes aging.
Right.
And it also is great to have because it can purify your drinking water.
It's been
charcoal filters,
exactly, Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you use this stuff?
Well, you buy it in a capsule and keep it in your purse, and really probably just as a prophylactic method, taking charcoal each day, maybe at your largest meal, might not be a bad idea, particularly if it's a meal you eat out.
No doubt about it. And if you're eating fast food, why bother?
Exactly.
You're going off the deep end. So, the diet plays a real important part. And this is in case you mess up, or in case you eat something that you don't know how good it is, or if you're eating in a restaurant, I highly recommend you take a dose.
Well, the other thing I want you to be aware of is that because activated charcoal is like a superpowered magnet, it absorbs toxins and heavy metals as well as nutrients like calcium and magnesium. So taking activated charcoal at least 90 minutes to 2 hours before meals, because you don't want it to bind up the nutrients. Now, that is one of the things that makes Mediclay interesting. And one of the reasons Premier Research Labs has been spending a lot of time working with Mediclay, and we found that it to be a really fine binding agent that, in addition, the particular one that we use donates calcium.
Oh.
It actually has calcium as part of its makeup, and as it goes through being a magnet, it drops off usable calcium, so that's really great.
And the real benefit of the clay, it gets smaller particles, doesn't it, than the charcoal can?
Very interesting. It really excels at binding mycotoxins. And what are mycotoxins? Mycotoxins are fungal type things that we're finding in our foods, such as nuts and peanut butters and grains that have been stored in silos, even in alcohol, frozen foods, sugars, and hard cheeses that are hard to digest.
Yeah, the thing about grains, too, remember, folks, grains are always in these silos. You go back down the road, you see
it's rather gross, actually, when you think about it.
and then, of course, the rats are in the silos, and the droppings get in there, and then they have to clean all that stuff.
That's not pretty, Nico.
No, it's not a pretty picture. I'm trying to paint not a pretty picture, because not only is the food not that great, it's a starvation food, so you need it if you don't have anything else, but the way we're storing it and the way we're preparing it is just horrible.
So let's talk about why you might want to use Mediclay as a great binding agent as well. Because in addition to the mycotoxins, it does a fine job of trapping and removing other poisons such as POPs, or persistent organic pollutants, the lysosphate from GMOs and from genetically modified foods, but glyphosate is the Monsanto Roundup that's being sprayed on our wheat, chemotoxins, inflammatory compounds, and cytokines. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
And more or less, I keep a little case, and I keep a Mediclay every day.
Yeah, I've never used it, so I got to get up with you to get that for sure.
Contact me if you want to get some Mediclay.
Yeah.
It's kind of a quantum state rare desert clay. What does quantum state mean? It has lots of multiple benefits. And
well, one of the benefits, of course, of natural clay would be that you've got probably the fulvic humic in there.
Well, the natural minerals, you're exactly right. And it's not the standard sodium bentonite clay. It's a far superior calcium bentonite. Remember I mentioned that? We have sought this out. And it supports deep-seated whole-body detox. It's really so easy to take every day, just to kind of help protect you from what you may not know you're getting involved in.
You take that as a capsule also, in capsule form too, so it makes it easier.
Plenty of water, so you kind of move it along. And clay has had a long time worldwide ancient history of being used for cleansing, the health promoting benefits of it. And it's been used for thousands of years. It's very safe. And this particular clay that we use has been obtained from a deep subsurface mine in the southwestern desert area of the U.S., which has been uniquely protected from leaching and being oxidized by the climate. So it's over 43 million years old, and it's been sealed away from the ravages of nature and by a crust of zeolite minerals.
Yeah, and this is really important because, of course, our climate, our environment is toxic, so the clay on the surface is not going to be like it was 40,000 years ago.
Right.
Where if you felt something coming on, maybe that you would dig up a little bit of clay and eat a little bit of it. That's what kids do automatically. We see animals doing this. So, it's something that we would naturally always do. Mm-hmm. And now we're kind of detuned with this. Dirt is bad. Charcoal is bad.
And it's not, folks. But really, one of the best ways to take Mediclay is, as I said, it's virtually tasteless, but keep it in your purse or pocket and open a capsule into a glass of water.
That's the best way to take it.
And then drink it while, sip on it while you're having your meal. So then the clay mixes in. It really doesn't change the taste of your water that much. It makes it cloudy. But it's a great way to kind of have the clay intermingle with the food.
Okay, so it's a little different than the charcoal. Charcoal we want to take before. Can we also take charcoal afterwards? Because I've taken it off in that time when I feel a little
You just have to make
distressed.
sure you drink a lot of water because these could be binding. You know what I'm saying in terms
you're
of
binding good stuff. You don't want to do that. You want to bind the bad stuff. So
that's the difference with the clay. It doesn't tend to bind as much of the other natural minerals. It's more of a mineral donator. But I think they're both excellent sources. But we wanted to share this information with you because it's important that you protect yourself from what's in the food, what might be lurking there, regardless of whether or not, with all of our best intentions, we know that farmers that are trying to grow organic crops, their crop yields are being contaminated, and that's very
contaminated
disturbing.
from the Monsanto field next door.
Exactly.
Contaminated from pollution, contaminated from the traffic going by, contaminated from acid rain.
Well, and then think about the water. We've got a lot of our water that we're drinking, regardless of our best intentions to drink great water, we've got pharmaceutical residues.
Yeah.
I was watching the TV last night. It was just, we were talking about the
plagiarism of...
we were talking about the Republican convention. That was a little bit disturbing. I didn't know that until you told me that speech was...
word for word, the same as Michelle Obama's 8 years ago. I mean, word for word. I mean, somebody should have known this, and it shows me they're not ready, and they better get their act together.
Oh, that's kind of concerning.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking she did a beautiful job.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was, a
lot of people
a repeat thing.
Yeah, it was definitely a repeat. And to go with the Obama administration part of it, that is kind of
Well, it takes away, when she kept saying, my husband, it takes away the passion. Oh, well.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Living a Primal Lifestyle. I'm Paige Clark, and I'm here with my buddy Nico DeHaan.
Hi.
So let's share this article. This is from my friend. She's a super, super gal. La Casa Spa. Think of your body as one great battery. And it really lets you know that we are electrical beings. And,
I like this article a lot.
Yeah, and I think that, we're always talking about healing is voltage. Dr. Tennant, Jerry Tennant's work is something that's really greatly impacted me, and I really like sharing things like this because I think men particularly understand mechanical things.
Yeah.
And when you understand that you're a battery capacitor, and you look at the wires and the connections, think of the meridians and all of these things as the way that you work, it really makes health and healing a little more easy to understand.
Well, I was drawn to this, first of all, because of the electric universe theories. I think that the whole universe is electric, and certainly we're always talking that we're electric beings. And this made sense to me because the body's always trying to equalize itself. It's always trying to remain in this stasis that is really healthy. It fights for that. And that's why we actually heal ourselves. And all the doctors are trying to do, or the practitioners or the healers are trying to do, is help us equalize.
Correct. And this was written by my friend Jane Goldberg, PhD, and she has a beautiful healing center in New York City, but she's quite well-versed in healing. And she had just returned from the Best Answers for Cancer conference in San Diego, and that inspired her writing this. And she was honored to be one of the speakers. And it was really wonderful to see that so many people were there talking about the healing, including Dr. Tennant, who has a great book if you want to read it, Healing is Voltage.
Yeah, now chronic diseases and illnesses, these conditions don't exist without both low cellular voltage and low oxygen. And no chronic condition can be healed without cells grabbing onto more oxygen than they have been getting. But even if the cell makes a desperate and successful attempt to grab onto additional oxygen, low cellular voltage will make it impossible for the cell to hold onto the oxygen. For healing to take place, the voltage of the cell has to be upped. Voltage in the body is foundational.
Excellent. We have to have a good charge. We have to have enough of a negative charge to create healing. And Dr. Tennant explains it like if I hit my thumb with a hammer, right? Yeah. There's going to be inflammation.
Yeah.
So if I don't have sufficient voltage to make new cells, then that chronic inflammation will continue, and that thumb will not heal properly. So take that into the whole body. If you have an injury or illness brewing in your body, if you do not have enough cellular voltage, negative charge in your body, negative electrons running around in your body, then you're going to stay in a state of chronic inflammation and not be able to heal.
That's exactly right. No voltage means you're dying. When that last blink, of course, everything that we measure in that emergency room has to do with voltage. We're measuring the heartbeat, we're measuring the blood pressure. All these things are related to electricity, ions moving in and out. And certainly oxygen is the killer of cancer. We know that. We want to create a more oxygen in our body to help our immune system. And remember, we're talking about the battery is our immune system, really, what they mean. So our immune system is a charged thing, and if we lose the control of that battery within us, it's kind of like you're not going to be able to start the car because you don't have enough voltage to get that starter going.
Exactly, and Jane talks about Professor of Anatomy at Yale University School of Medicine, Harold Saxton Burr, who researched the electrical fields of organisms and published over 93 papers on bioelectrical or biological electricity, which is biological living electricity. And he found the measurable imbalances in the electrical field of an organ precede the onset of pathology. So it goes back to EAV. You know, electroacupuncture by volt, checking the voltage. So if we see poor voltage ahead of time, perhaps we can stop the pathology. So the quote was, if the electrical imbalance is corrected, the disease does not manifest.
Yeah.
Powerful quote.
And I like what it says here. Of course, cells are designed to run on a certain voltage at 25 millivolts.
Negative 25.
Negative 25.
That's
Making
the key.
new cells requires the negative 50 millivolts. So you need more energy required to rebuild as the thing goes along. What's really interesting about this is that you make new cells all the time. Every 48 hours, new gut lining every 3 days, new skin every 6 weeks, new liver every 8 weeks, new nervous system every 9 months. Folks, these cells are replacing the bad ones automatically. So when the doctors say, well, you have to live with a condition,
Absolutely
not so.
You don't.
Not
That's
so.
right. We are designed to self-heal. And chronic pain is a symptom of low voltage. That's really what your body, that's really what your body's saying, I have low voltage. Cancer comes when our voltage is positive 30. So on the other side, you know, we're looking, it may seem opposite when you think about it, but we want a negative charge. When we become positively charged, makes sense, wouldn't it, that we want to start getting some of those positively charged ions out of our body, like we were talking about using the clay and the charcoal. So when we develop cancer, we have switched polarities. We have gone from a healthy minus voltage to an unhealthy plus voltage. And voltage is another name for pH. I love Dr. Tennant.
And this makes you understand a little bit easier. Of course, pH, you think about a swimming pool, you think about your battery. You're testing your battery for the pH. You're testing your swimming pool for the pH. We're testing our bodies for pH, too.
Well, pH actually stands for potential of hydrogen, and that's a whole other thing because hydrogen is actually an antioxidant. But I like to remind people it's potential for healing. And I like to give it another acronym. You know, I think that helps people remember it. So our pH level is simply a measure of whether electrons are available in surplus or if we have a deficit. And the minus sign means electrons are in surplus. And if we are in a positive state, you know, of electrons, then we have a deficit.
Yeah, so if you're from 0 to 6.9 in the plus, these are called electron stealers. They have that pH, and they're going to take away from the body much more.
Right, the electron stealers. Those are free radicals. Free radicals are basically electron stealers, and they create the deficit that can happen.
Yeah.
And they can be very destructive to our well-being. So what we really want to do if you're working with a holistic practitioner and they're asking you about your pH, one of the very best things, as Dr. Marshall has taught us, the very first step to great health is to get yourself to an ideal pH.
Right.
What is an ideal pH? It's not too alkaline. Some people are going overboard with these it's a natural pH, which is somewhat right around neutral.
Yeah.
It's slightly alkaline.
Yeah, when we take all these different things, we're really trying to normalize ourselves. We're not trying to, but by drinking alkaline water, you're not necessarily going to get yourself alkalized. It may be the opposite, as with distilled water. Where you actually nudge the body a little bit to produce what you need. And that's really the science, I think, of the future in health.
I think so, too. And I think really, as Jane says here, this is very interesting. She's quoting someone, a gentleman, Randolph Howes, has documented free radicals have their place in our lives and our health. Just because electron donors are our friends does not mean that free radicals are our enemies. As she said before, our bodies are in a constant process of dying and being born. We need to do both. That's important because we need the bad cells. That's cancer is an example of where the cells proliferate and stay living forever.
We just don't want them growing.
That's right. You want to stop that. We want that proper apoptosis.
This is very interesting. We're going to go on with this because there's a whole bunch of factoids about cells that I want to go over to give you an idea of why we pick things like the Primal Edge and why we're talking about this right now. It's important for our old age and our young age.
Stay tuned. We'll see you after the break.
877-927-6648. Give us a call. Welcome back to the show, folks. Paige and Nico here. We're talking about batteries, actually our own battery, which is our whole body.
Our cells. And you have to heal the cell to be well.
That's right. And we're really digging into what the cell does. So let's go on with this.
Yeah, so our cells operate best with a negative charge, around 22 negative millivolts. And that's equivalent to a healthy pH of about 7.35. Think of the pH of our blood. Our pH can't vary much, otherwise we die.
3.4, 3.3, 7.3, 7.4.
Yeah, it's a very small, tenths of a point variance. And we need to be slightly alkaline. But when our voltage drops below negative 20, meaning going more towards zero, we will begin to experience fatigue. And as the voltage drops farther and even farther, we become prone to illnesses and disease. And cancer cells have a charge of about a positive 40 millivolts. And one of the best ways of monitoring the state of your health and what direction your body is headed in is to practice good old naturopathic type health and hygiene and test your pH.
Yep.
And you can check, 2 ways you can check your pH. We're going to talk about that, but I think one of the easiest ways to see what's going on with your cellular battery is to check your first morning salivary pH. And you simply take some pH paper and you test it, and ideally you would find your salivary pH would be around 6.5, which equates to the 7.35 on the pH scale.
Cool.
But before you go into that, I know we got some important facts we want to share. It's important to understand the difference between urinary pH and salivary. And
again,
there's a lot of
it's
debate.
like the cholesterol. One's going in and one's going out. So they got to be different.
Exactly.
Right.
And the salivary pH is more of a measure of what's going on of cellular voltage, what the charge is of the cells, whereas the urine pH is a rough indicator of the voltage in the fluids, the extracellular fluid around the cells. So it's important to understand that because chronic disease happens when we lose the ability to make new cells that will survive and be able to perform their assigned function. So if we can't make new cells, then we get into a catastrophic situation in the body. Low electrical voltage, low pH, and low oxygen interfere with the body being able to produce new cells. And generally when you have one, you end up with all three.
Exactly. So let's talk about little facts about the cells. First of all, the inside of most cells are made up of amino acids. That's why we need amino acids.
Yeah, and the insides of nerve cells are 50% cholesterol, so you can see what a catastrophic effect it has been that we told everyone that cholesterol was a bad thing. We have to have good nerve conductivity by having healthy cholesterol.
Yeah, and cell membranes are made of fat. The brain is the fattest organ in the body, consisting of at least 60% fat. Thus, we need to ingest fats to feed the brain.
And to make healthy cell membranes. And what do cells need? The cells need electron donor water, clean, alkaline enhancing water fits this bill.
Yeah, and cells need vitamins and minerals. Fulvic acid controls all this.
Yes.
Hence why we put it in the Primal Edge.
Yes, and I think this is just great to hear, Jane talking about this, and all these cancer researchers know the importance of fulvic.
Yes.
And helping to have that charge. That puts that good, healthy, negative charge on the cells. And cells need oxygen, and this is under the control of nitric oxide, so we need this oxygen to keep the cells healthy.
Yeah, so now we want to talk about why the cells actually lose the voltage, why they're low in voltage. And
what are electron stealers? What's causing our bodies to lose electrons?
Right. And one of the main things is being stuck in the sympathetic on switch, fight or flight, where you're always in chronic stress, really.
Yes.
This is the stress. So this is really what robs the cells of the voltage that we need.
we want to be balanced. I mean, there's a time for both, but the parasympathetic allows us to rest, heal, and rejuvenate.
Right.
Lack of thyroid hormone. There's a huge tie-in to hypothyroidism and low cellular voltage.
And we know that the thyroid controls all the functions of all the different things that are going in the body as far as all the organs are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Number 3, a lack of fulvic acids.
We don't have that in ours.
Yeah, well, this is part of the, we've been researching for years, and many of these people have been the people that inspired me to really seek out what our bodies really needed. And Dr. Tennant was a huge influence on my education.
Cool.
and the idea of fulvic acids. Another thing that drains electrons and steals them from our body, keeping us not in our healthiest, are mercury fillings or other heavy metals.
Yeah, stuck in your mouth. The toxin is slowly released on a daily basis. You need to get rid of those.
If you haven't seen that video, The Smoking Gun, about mercury fillings, you take a moment and watch that. Acidic water and processed foods are both real.
Yeah, that's just going to the grocery store, picking up a can or a box.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to lower your pH just by picking that box up pretty much. The other thing really is the carbonated beverages. So if you're drinking sodas...
time to hang that up.
It's
definitely. Just the research is just too clear. They're not adding to your health. They're taking from it. And this is one that I'm very passionate about explaining to people are scars. Scars.
I did not expect to see scars on this list.
Well, this is a big important thing that we learn, those of us that are in more of a holistic field and look at people as a whole body. We know that scars are interference fields. Emotions are interference fields and scars are interference fields, and we've got to neutralize the interference.
Yeah.
So since electricity and energy and communication, cellular communication, is done along the body's meridians, what do you think happens when we create a scar? An interference field, a roadblock.
Right.
So we have to repolarize.
And your body's
correctly.
Working real hard to get rid of that scar too. Yeah.
Exactly. We need to repolarize the scar tissue, and you can work with people who are knowledgeable. That's part of what my training is with Dr. Marshall is remediating the scar tissue, and that's very important.
Yeah, and think about it, cholesterol being the thing that heals the scars inside our body.
Oh, yeah, if you have low cholesterol, you're not going to heal.
Yeah, so sugar is always scarring everything in your body, all the membranes, all the little arteries and everything like that. So if you're on a high carbohydrate type diet, you're getting scarred from the inside out.
Right, and since we don't have vitamin C, that's why the antioxidant vitamin C has been so helpful in keeping arteries clear.
Right.
Sugar's running around causing the damage, and there's not enough antioxidants or negative charge to repair it.
And there's also ineffective removal of toxins by the liver. So the liver is in a constant toxic mode. If you're not getting rid of the toxins, it's overworking itself. The whole body is in a stasis of working too hard. It needs to relax a little bit.
And we want to get plenty of exercise and plenty of fresh water that has a negative charge on it, whatever kind of water you have. We've talked about this on the last show. Yes, distilled water is kind of neutral charged. However, you can structure it, you can add a little bit of salt to it, create a negative electricity to it.
Yeah. So, these other things, of course, we talked about water the other day, the lack of the electron donor water, the real good water that we can drink, and we highlighted distilled water as being one of the better ones.
Well, we also talked about structuring and energizing the water.
Definitely.
And distilled water might be a great base because it's purified.
Right, but it still needs to be structured.
The energy that we can get, and who energizes water best but the sun?
That's for sure.
So, yeah.
Then lack of exercise, naturally. Well, you mentioned that, but GMO foods is another one. Well, of course, we're getting more and more inundated, and it's hiding in our foods now because the labeling attempts that we want have kind of failed.
Yeah,
we're not labeling these things, so we really don't know what GMO our foods are in a lot of the packaged foods.
Yeah, with the Dark Act and everything, you know, we're not going to know what these are. But these are all the things that can really interfere with why your cells get low in voltage.
There's also the vaccines that we talk about often, the pharmaceutical drugs, and then, of course, the dental infections.
Dental infections are one stressor that the body has a very difficult time overcoming.
Yeah. So we'll be right back, folks. We're on a break here. Stick around. We got a little bit more here.
And welcome back to Living a Primal Lifestyle. We're talking about how do we then help our cells have a healthy charge. We talked about some of the things that interfere, but one of the best things, as Jane Goldberg found out at this big convention with some of the greatest minds in healing, what was one of the stars of the conversation? Fulvic and humic acids.
Yeah.
And fulvic and humic acids, people, are the base in which we built the primal edge. The survival of all civilization depends on humates and fulvic acids. And these are all organic matter that lives in the soil. And the fulvic acid is created in extremely small amounts by millions of beneficial microbes that work on the decaying plant matter, and it combines with a variety of minerals to make a complex molecular structure that makes the minerals absorbable by the cell, which means they're absorbable by humans.
Yeah, unfortunately, our modern farming and practices have destroyed the soil, leaving them devoid of these materials. This has disrupted the miracle molecules that Paige always talks about in the soil. So, you know, if it's missing in the soil, it's going to be missing in our food. So this is why it's so important, and why we did almost a year of study on this to come up with something that nobody else is really using, the fulvic and humic acids in very few of the, like if you look at Mike Sisson's Mark Sisson's work with his vitamin regime, $129 a month, I think it is. I used it for about 4 years. Really good product. Doesn't have the base that we have in the Primal Edge, and it's only $89 a month. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. If you go to really these top people that are using really good vitamins and minerals, they're still not using humic and fulvic acid.
Yeah, it's a new category creator for sure, right. and this work is based in science and based in the research. You can go to PubMed and see thousands and thousands of pages of the health benefits of fulvic and humic in our health.
Yeah, here it says, I want to read this because it's really important, how our bodies use fulvic acid. Carries vitamins and nutrients to the right places in our bodies. Fulvic acid is so powerful that one single fulvic acid molecules is capable of carrying 60 or more of the minerals and trace elements directly into the cells. This gives the fulvic acid the ability to have a dramatic impact on all types of diseases and infections, and this is the reason we used it.
And it increases the availability of minerals and trace elements. That's why we call it cell-ready nutrition. It's not something the body has to become a chemistry lab and work on, on breaking down. Fulvic and humic acids help the body be able to use the nutrients. So you can buy these expensive supplements, but if your body can't use them, that's really what happens. They end up not being used.
And they also activate the digestive enzymes, which are the life force of our bodies. We always talk about we're not digesting our food well. The humic and fulvic acid allow you to digest much better.
Exactly. And, they are very effective at neutralizing and detoxifying harmful toxins. I've referred to them on the show a couple of times as nature's alchemic geniuses, meaning they know how to make good things out of bad things and how to get rid of the bad things, and that's really beautiful. So they're effective at neutralizing and detoxifying harmful chemicals, toxins, pollutants, including heavy metals such as lead and mercury. And fulvic will bind with these heavy metals. A chelator, very much like how our whole show has been about today, powerful chelators. It is one of the most powerful chelators. Yeah. If you're taking this, I mean, even this will do a lot, and it will donate all the other trace minerals.
Yeah, increases oxygenation, which all the soft tissues of our body needs, and it's one of the safest, most potential antiviral substances available today.
Tremendous research on the power of fulvic and humic in creating kind of antiviral protection. Don't take our word for it, folks.
Sounds like a commercial, but this is actually right out of the research.
Yeah, this is research. Yeah, we're not, sure, we'd love for you to try the Primal Edge, but either way, we want you to understand about fulvic acid and understand what our passion is. We're bringing back primal healing, primal health. Stay tuned. Come see us next time.
Thanks a lot for sticking around, folks. Bye-bye.
You're watching Tiger TV.